Thank you for inviting me. I'm in the realm of ninja and just got out of bed. Surrounded by a group of fanatical and crazy black-robed people, there was also a grey big back named Fei Duan laughing wildly at him. Because he was the second lucky one to successfully survive and obtain the immortality in this divine selection ceremony. Hokage Shensi is a bit numb. What made him even more frustrated was that after being modified, his body had no chakras, but he could no longer practice any ninjutsu. This means he will become the first one to not die or endure. But the activation of a bizarre system brought a whole new change to his life. Can you learn ninjutsu? Small problem. Here are various magical spells for you to choose from. Red Blood Mantra, Rumbling Spirit Mantra, 10 Shadow Spells. Everything is available. Wait a moment. How come there is still a cursed wind hole? Can this also be considered a spell? Forget it, whatever it is, expand the field, there is no infinite space. New book for newcomers, please provide more guidance. Keywords of the novel. I engage in spell battles in the ninja world without pop-ups. I engage in spell battles in the ninja world. Download the complete text and read the latest chapters on spell battles in the ninja world. Chapter 1, Just Call It Fei Duan. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1, Just Call It Fei Duan. In a secluded base in the deep mountains surrounding the kingdom of Yukawa, many mysterious people wearing black robes and silver pendants with outer circles and inner triangles around their necks are busy. Hokage Shinji, Faden, let's start today's physical combat training after the blood draw ends. Yes, Lord Longqi. Bang, bang. In a slightly bright and spacious room, two figures were engaged in a fierce physical combat under the illumination of the surrounding flames, and the sound of punches almost never stopped from the beginning. A figure was knocked down to the ground, and the next moment it would immediately counterattack. The opposite is also true. As the battle continued, the physical strength began to dissipate significantly, and the movements of both sides gradually became disorganized, to the point where in the end it became more like a competition about willpower. You punch and I kick, see who can't stand up again first. It can be said that such a battle scene is not exciting or shocking. These two teenagers, who appear to be 14 or 5 years old, are not particularly skilled in physical skills and are far behind in terms of skills. But if we only look at the strength and resistance demonstrated by these two teenagers, we can see that their physical fitness has reached a level far beyond the benchmark of their peers. So in the eyes of the black-robed people around, even though there were not many remarkable aspects to this battle, they did not stop their records. After all, this is not a physical exercise class, but just a part of the topic that requires observation and research every day. Alright, that's it for today. Take an hour off and then learn the spells. The speaker was a middle-aged man who appeared to be in his 40s or 50s. Unlike the black robes worn by others around him, he was wearing a dark red robe and had a kind smile on his face, looking like a neighbor from the countryside. But in fact it was this seemingly kind and amiable man who created the cult of evil gods with the doctrine of endless slaughter, secretly developing his power while plundering and killing people around him. Unconsciously, the existence of the cult of evil gods has become a taboo in places such as the kingdom of Sichuan. The two teenagers, who were preparing to hit each other in the face with their fists raised high, finally stopped their movements, and their fists were only a few centimeters away from the opponent's right face. Cut, this time you're lucky, otherwise this punch will definitely blow your head first. The young man with gray hair, purple-red pupils, and a big back hairstyle, wearing Tang Yinsuan's rebellious and forbearable forehead around his neck, was the first to stare at his purple-red eyes in displeasure and mutter. If we exclude his panting, face purple and bruised, and body covered in dirt and dust, these words may have some awe-inspiring and authenticity. On the other side, also retracting his fist was a fair young man of similar height, with short brown pointed hair and a somewhat stern face. But what is completely different from that fragile and uncontrollable appearance is that this guy was completely in a harmless posture in the fight just now. Its madness has even reached a somewhat alarming level. Furthermore, if you delve deeper into him, you will find that this handsome young man who appears somewhat delicate is not as gentle and refined as he looks. On the contrary, this is a bastard with a bad personality. As soon as he heard the other person's mouth start to harden again, he spoke softly and said, with your soft-bread fist dipped in honey. If you want to sweet me to death, then I must admit that you did it, Fei Duan. Chi Mu. Shen. Si. Bastard, I'm going to kill you. Shattered lips couldn't spray the other person's flying segment, and his eyes were suddenly filled with a murderous aura. How dare you describe my master's iron fist like this? The evil god is above, you are definitely dead today. Oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. After all, compared to those girls who only scratch their hair and face, when you're beaten, at least you won't cry and shout for your mother. Akagi Shinji did not give in at all, even pressing his head against the chest of the flying segment and forcefully pushing it forward with just one sentence. The flying segment being pushed forward was losing ground step by step, and his eyes became increasingly red. Until he saw Akagi Shinji lift his head again and reveal the picture, giving you a chance is not worth it. My face Fei Duan finally couldn't help it. Zinai. Shouting loudly, Fei Duan immediately took out a pitch-black short spear from his arms, and then, under the slightly helpless gaze of others, directly pierced through Akagi Shinji's heart. Puff. Pain. It really hurts. Although it's not the first time experiencing the feeling of death, the pain of being stabbed in the heart is still so clear and unbearable. And just as Fei Duan pierced Shenxi's heart with a black spear, Shenxi's kuwu in his hand accurately and skillfully penetrated Fei Duan's neck, not even a single one. Obviously, from the beginning, Shenxi anticipated the movements of Fei Duan and not only had no intention of evading, but also launched a violent attack to kill at the same time. This is a man who is cruel to others and even more cruel to himself. Pound Akagi Shinji and Fei Duan each fell on their backs. One was punctured in the heart, and the other was sealed in the throat. For the average normal person, suffering such a fatal injury, even immediate rescue now is almost a dead end. What's even more strange is that the people around us don't even have the slightest intention of saving people. Always indifferent, with a cold expression on his face, even his expression remained unchanged after seeing both of them perish together. Then the next moment, Fei Duan, who was lying on the ground with a corpse, suddenly lifted a hand and grabbed the kuwu inserted around his neck, then forcefully pulled it out. Puff. Clash. Cough, cough, wheezing, and vomiting. The pain is really painful, you bastard. Fei Duan cursed loudly in his heart and stood up again, the bitterness he casually threw away covered in blood. But even so, he didn't die, on the contrary, he was still alive and well, and the wound was rapidly healing. On the other hand, just 3 seconds after his death, Shenxi also regained consciousness. Then, under the gaze of everyone, Akagi Shinji, who had already fallen into the street, suddenly opened his eyes and quickly got up from the ground. He also pulled out the pitch-black short spear that had been inserted into his heart and casually threw it aside. Since God inexplicably brought him into this terrifying world of ninjas, he must go to great lengths to adapt, whether it's killing or being killed. Pooh! After spitting out the bloody saliva in his mouth, Akagi Shinji, who had just died once, immediately spoke up again, that's it. Isn't it? My grandmother was even stronger than you when she was still alive. Fei Duan's teeth were almost bitten to pieces, but he was helpless. After all, as the survivors of that ceremony, they all received a certain sense of immortality, which is undoubtedly a gift from the evil god lord. In fact, this is not the first time that Fei Duan has chosen to kill Akagi Shinji in anger. But it was as if Shinji Akagi was his nemesis, and he never took advantage of it, either dying together or being killed back. Even if he succeeded in a surprise attack, he was met with crazy retaliation from Shinji Akagi afterwards. The terrible feeling of having his head cut off and buried deep underground, Fei Duan really doesn't want to experience it again. At that time, hundreds of people from all over the evil god sect played a treasure hunting game for 3 days and 3 nights. In the end, the leader of the Longqi sect was angry and spoke, and Shenxi pointed to a certain tree. Since then, their relationship has been completely settled. And it also made many people in the evil god sect rediscover Akaji Shinji, a terrifying guy with a bad personality. This is also one of the reasons why most of the time during the flight just now was spent talking nonsense, and it wasn't until the end that I was forced to act. Otherwise, according to the character of Fei Duan himself, if someone else dares to stand in front of him and force him to be lazy, he would probably have been completely dismembered long ago. The boring little game should come to an end, children. I see that your energy is still particularly strong, so let's cancel the rest time and go to room 2 immediately. The materials are ready. After enjoying a farce but never stopping, the leader of the Longqi sect spoke up. In fact, it was also thanks to the two of them's resolute revenge that they were able to collect so much precious experimental data in just 1 month. Fei Duan knew that there would be no result if he continued to fight, so he snorted coldly and turned his head before leaving. P.S. After so long, Lao Wumian has finally returned. This time, let's set sail again. Newcomers and new books, please give us more guidance. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. New Immortal 2-person team. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 New Immortal 2-person team. The excitement of death is extremely low, chakra, and there is a slight improvement in willpower and physical fitness. Task. New Undead 2 team, content. Interact with Fei Duan to gain bonds. Binding value. 100 out of 100, the first phase has been completed. Reward distribution. Curse soul value x 1000, randomly generate spell x1, obtaining birth curse. Red blood exercise. Task. New Undead 2 team, phase 2 opens. Akaji Shinji was delighted to hear the sound coming from the system. As a qualified traveler, how could one not have a golden finger by their side? Due to an accident, he crossed over to the ceremony of the arrival of evil gods in the cult, causing his body to come back to life from the dead and obtain an incomplete undead body, as well as successfully activating the system. However, the system he received was somewhat unorthodox. To put it simply, it was a particularly peculiar one. The activation condition is actually cursed at least once. If it weren't for him waking up at the arrival ceremony of the evil god, it would be considered that he had received the curse of the evil god, and it would be difficult for him to activate this strange system in his lifetime. Of course, the so-called ceremony of the arrival of evil gods is actually a taboo human experiment created by the cult of evil gods. In theory, there should be no such thing as an evil god in the world of Hokage. However, since it has been recognized by the bizarre system, he naturally won't be idle to delve into it. If he gets a discount, don't try to be obedient. After all, even the god of death exists, and multiple evil gods seem insignificant. But he never expected that there would be so many naughty operations in this weird system next. The beginner gift package inexplicably came up with a curse, and even the posted tasks were indescribable. Of course, there is absolutely no punishment for failure, do it or not. The explanation given by the system is that the host cannot be made a puppet of the system, otherwise there will definitely be wise people jumping out and picking faults. This reason is truly invincible. If it weren't for his lack of other options, he would definitely uninstall this weird system immediately. Even if it's not going well, we'll explode in place and perish with it. Fortunately, he restrained himself. After going through countless hardships, we finally completed the first stage of this mission. Therefore, he successfully obtained the urgently needed spells and soul points, which can be said to solve the urgent situation. System, open my personal interface. Host. Akaji Shinji Curse. The curse of the will of the world, permanent, the curse of evil gods, permanent, and the curse of the system, permanent. Spell. Red blood exercise spell. None curse object. None spell tool. None curse soul value. 1000 roulette lottery. Single draw, 1000 mantra soul points, 10 consecutive draws, 10,000 mantra soul points, task triggered binding character. Fei Duan current task. New Undead 2 team, Phase 2. The Curse of World will affect. Unknown PS, due to your unexpected arrival, this world has undergone some unique changes. The Curse of Evil Gods effect. The castrated version of the immortal body greatly enhances its self-healing ability, doubles the pain of any damage taken, and restores consciousness 3 seconds after death. P.S. The unknown evil god curiously glanced at you. The Curse of the System effect. With each death, it enhances some of its own chakra, willpower, and physical fitness. The enhancement effect depends on the level of excitement of death. Suicide has no effect. PS1. When you die, you also become stronger. PS2. Tired, hurry up and destroy it. Spell. Red blood exercise effect. Manipulate one's own blood and objects attached by blood. Domain. Unfolded. Task. New Undead 2 team, Phase 2 opens, content. Omitted, binding value. 100 out of 500, task reward. Curse soul value x 5000, spell enhancement volume x1, PS, my brother has abused me thousands of times, and I feel like my first love for him, whimpering, gone. Speaking of which, when he first received this task, Shen-Si had tried to establish a good relationship with the flying segment. After all, without knowing the weaknesses of the immortal body, and the death company relies on blood, the future killing power of the flying segment is definitely at the bug level. Don't be fooled, just be a shadow level powerhouse. As long as you hit the road, you'll be killed every minute. Moreover, Fei Duan is basically the kind of existence that reaches its peak upon debut, and does not require any hard training. As long as you learn death by blood, it is enough. Having such a companion around is naturally very reassuring. Of course, the prerequisite is that you can tolerate the arrogant and talkative side of Fei Duan. But how could Fei Duan, this idiot, just didn't like him? Not to mention building a good relationship, they would be grateful if they didn't fight when they met. So he's a monkey. Licking is impossible, I will never be a licking dog in my life. My brother has mistreated me thousands of times, and I am in love with him like my first love. Okay. But it has to be reversed. I want to shape the flying segment into my own shape. If the future weasel finds out, it will probably call itself an expert. At the last moment on the forehead, give a loving smile. And Shen-Si also decided to emulate this good Gigi from Kiba, so that Fei Duan could understand the consequences of offending the abbot. It's just that it's easy to say, but when it comes to actual practice, it's difficult to grasp the degree of it. It is truly regrettable that Shen-Si has been provoking for so long and only managed to complete the 100 binding points required for the first phase of the task. But Shen-Si did not give up on this grand road. Because after a month of adjustment, he has gradually mastered some tricks. I believe that once he becomes fully proficient, the progress of completing the task will definitely become faster and faster. He will sooner or later polish the flying segment into his own shape. After all, the task rewards are so delicious. Skipping the 3 heartbreaking curses, Akagi Shinji mainly focused on the spell he had just acquired, which was the only spell he could use now. Spell itself is a power that is hidden within the bloodline and released after being combined with spiritual power, usually driven by the power of the spell. Curse power, as the name suggests, is a special spiritual energy extracted from negative human emotions. So when the two are combined, they can often cause huge damage or produce many incredible effects. For example, if you kill yourself, you will kill the enemy. The death penalty relies on blood. Just like what Shen-Si has obtained at this moment. Red blood exercise technique. This is the relevant knowledge that Shen Si infused into his mind while obtaining the red blood technique. As one of the 3 legendary spells in the world of spells in Spell Return War, the potential of red blood exercise should not be underestimated, although it seems to be more than 1 or 2 points weaker than the other 2 families. However, for him who is currently in poverty and has no qualifications to be picky. More importantly, with this spell, he can finally breathe a sigh of relief. As for the reason. The reason is, of course, P.S. The setting of spell power and spells is mainly based on this book, which can be regarded as a special transformation of chakra, the dispelling of Bar's spirit. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Death by Blood and Red Blood Exercise. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Death by Blood and Red Blood Exercise. Let's start, said the leader calmly. Entering another secret room, 2 unlucky individuals with frightened expressions were tied to the cross like Jesus. Their wrists had been cut, and blood flowed into the bowl next to them, quickly filling it up. Faced with such a situation, everyone inside the house remained indifferent, including Hokage Shinji, who had become accustomed to it these days. Then Fei Duan walked directly to the side of some unlucky guy, and under the gaze of everyone, he rudely picked up one of the bowls of blood and looked up as a gesture of respect. Gudong, pop it. The bowl fell to the ground and split into pieces, leaving all the unfinished blood flowing out. Then Fei Duan gave a fierce smile and stepped on it, beginning to paint a special pattern. Quickly, a circular pattern wrapped in triangles was painted with blood from the ground. After finishing all of this, Fei Duan, who was standing inside the pattern, was extremely excited. He could feel that at this moment, the chakra inside his body quickly transformed into a special force, and then rushed forward, wrapping all the blood he had swallowed before in it. That's right, that's it, ha ha ha. Fei Duan couldn't help but laugh wildly as he covered his forehead with his hand and bent down. When he stood up straight again, his whole appearance had undergone a huge change. I saw that Fei Duan's skin first turned black directly, and then quickly produced white lines on top, evenly and uniquely distributed throughout various parts of the body, looking extremely terrifying. Then, amidst the laughter, Fei Duan once again took out a short spear from his arms and curiously and excitedly lightly swiped it over his chest. Suddenly, a long bloodstain appeared. Is he simply self-abusing? No. Fei Duan's eyes became increasingly excited and restless. Because the unlucky guy who had been drinking blood just now, an identical wound suddenly appeared on his chest. Puff. Fei Duan stared intently at the other person while inserting his short spear into his right leg. Woo-woo. The unlucky guy who was gagged suddenly shot a blood arrow out of his right leg, but could only make a whimpering sound. It hurts a lot, but it really is. It's really so comfortable. Ha ha ha, let's go die together. In the midst of wild laughter, Fei Duan kept waving his sharp short spear, opening one blood hole after another on himself, splattering fresh blood everywhere. However, Fei Duan's expression was in pain and joy, almost ascending to heaven. Pop it. The sudden automatic release of the spell caused the flying segment to collapse in a large font on the ground, with a satisfied expression on its face, probably not even needing a cigarette afterwards. I don't know when that unlucky guy widened his eyes and was scared to death. Upon seeing this scene, all the members of the evil god sect who were observing and recording everything not far away showed extremely excited expressions. They succeeded once again. Even the leader couldn't help but smile with relief. Fei Duan was indeed the most precious treasure given to him by the evil god lord. Only a month later, he had actually practiced this spell to this extent. Although the duration is still short, it is already exciting enough. Compared to it, the other one is more like a castrated version of the flying segment in all aspects. The leader's gaze flickered slightly as he looked at Hokage Shinji and said, "It's your turn, Shinji." Hokage Shinji immediately took a few steps forward, and the excited and appreciative gaze around him immediately turned into examination and doubt, landing on him. Just because compared to the flying segment where he could unleash the Death Division with blood in just 1 month, his current progress is remarkable. 0. In fact, even Akagi Shinji himself did not expect that he could not practice that spell. Death by blood skill. Although he overcame his own obsession with cleanliness and convinced himself with the nonsensical excuse of drinking human blood at least doesn't have as many parasites, he forced himself to drink it once, but it seems that his own existence is an accident. A person who shouldn't have survived inexplicably survived, and then luckily obtained the castrated version of the immortal body. So it seems reasonable that it is not possible to complete the cultivation of spell. Death based on blood. And he himself is not particularly willing to drink blood. There's nothing else, it's just a feeling of being buried. God knows whether the other party has any blood infectious diseases, such as AIDS. If you get hit, you won't even want to die. Nima is unlucky. So, besides not knowing how to deal with these guys from the evil god sect, Akagi Shinji himself is not very disappointed. After all, he is a silver man with golden fingers. And the reward he received this time can completely help him overcome difficulties smoothly. I saw that Akagi Shinji, who walked forward, did not learn to drink the bowl of blood that might contain some infectious disease like Fei Duan did. Instead, he suddenly took out a sharp kyumo and forcefully scratched his left wrist. In the quiet chamber, Shinji Akagi raised his left hand flat from the wound, allowing the blood to drip onto the ground. Upon seeing this, the leader of the Dragon Flag sect of the evil god sect frowned slightly, with a hint of displeasure in his eyes, before speaking up and asking, "What are you doing?" Akagi Shinji did not try to explain anything, but closed his eyes to feel the power inside his body. Chakra suddenly accelerated his speed and swam through specific meridians, then quickly transformed into another power under his strong emotions, which is the curse power used to cast spells. Then, Akagi Shinji suddenly opened his eyes and made an imprint with one hand. Red blood exercise. Under the surprised gaze of everyone, the large amount of blood that had previously flowed out of Akagi Shinji's body suddenly seemed to have come to life, turning into irregular bloodlines flowing rapidly around him. The dimly lit secret room, the body nailed to the cross, the eerie religious patterns, and the blood that suddenly came to life and began to swim. This scene has an inexplicable and somewhat eerie beauty. The question that the leader of the Longqi sect was unable to fully ask seems to no longer require an answer, but in order to completely intimidate these people, Shinji Akagi still spoke up and said, "This is the new spell specially bestowed upon me by the evil god lord. Red blood exercise. New spells. Red blood exercise." The leader of the Longqi sect came back to his senses from surprise, then gave him a deep glance, and then returned to his original kind appearance, praising him, "Very good. Since the Lord Evil God has bestowed a new spell on you, then you should focus on it. Praise the Lord Evil God." End of this chapter. Chapter 4. I play spell warfare in the Hokage World, named after. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. I play spell wars in the Hokage World. Naming is really super difficult. Add more 13. Praise the Lord Evil God. Everyone shouted in unison. No matter what the leader of the Longqi sect thinks in his heart, in front of others, the glory of the evil god lord outweighs everything. Unreasonable. If it's unreasonable, that's right. If we pursue rationality, who would believe in an evil god who doesn't exist yet? So in the eyes of these cultists, any unreasonable thing that involves the Lord Evil God is the most reasonable existence in the world. Don't believe it. There are two obvious examples in front of us, even the existence of something like an immortal body. What else is impossible? It is precisely because he is familiar with the thinking patterns of the cult of evil gods that Akagi Shinji dares to use the method of "you are all foolish and mentally disabled" to push everything towards the so-called Lord of Evil Gods. Anyway, as long as it involves their belief in the evil god, no one dares to question the truth of his words. After all, As long as Akagi Shinji bites himself to death, it's unlikely that the evil God Lord, who has never seen anyone before, can suddenly jump out and expose him. Of course, this is only limited to praise and showing miracles. If he dares to slander the evil God, then there is no doubt that these people will not seek evidence, but will directly tear him apart in anger. The outcome of the matter was just as expected by Shinji Akagi. Even if someone had doubts in their hearts, no one foolishly jumped out to question. Instead, we began to praise the kindness and greatness of the evil gods together. In terms of pretending to be foolish while being stunned, everyone can be said to have a perfect understanding. After completing the form, the leader of Longqi's sect began to inquire about the relevant information about the new spell bestowed by the evil god lord. Akagi Shinji was also very calm, saying everything he could say, and simply saying he didn't know what he couldn't say. Anyway, he had just received this power from the system and didn't know much about it. If you want to know more intelligence, you can ask the system if you have the ability. Facing Akagi Shinji with an open and straightforward demeanor, the leader of the Longqi sect also felt a headache. It seems that this new spell can only be used by the opponent and cannot be promoted or handed over to Fei Duan at the moment. As for whether what this guy said is true or false, the leader of the Longqi sect is not ready to delve into it for now. Without tearing his face apart, he knew he couldn't come up with anything valuable, so it was better to use a gentle approach to continue influencing and brainwashing the other person. As long as the other party can still use it for him and fight for the evil god sect, then all other details are not important. The leader of the Longqi sect believes that he can tightly control Akagi Shinji, but he is unaware that Akagi Shinji is different from the people he previously controlled. Red blood exercise. Haha. My immortal body is the strongest when combined with the Death Minister's blood. After lying on the corpse for half a day, the flying segment faded and stood up again with an unhappy expression, saying, "Hee hee, what are you laughing at? As long as you get blood, even if you're the 6 immortals, I'll kill them for you, you bastard. Come on, I'm going to kill you. I swear I must kill you. Oh, is there anything else?" Akagi Shinji's extremely perfunctory attitude made Fei Duan feel like vomiting blood several times. But on the other hand, if Fei Duan really had a way to deal with the other party, he wouldn't have been using harsh language until today. As long as Akagi Shinji does not betray the evil god sect for a day, the leader of the Longqi sect cannot truly allow them to fight tirelessly with their lives. So I am very angry, but I can only be incompetent and furious. You wait for me, this matter is not over. Ding, tie value +1, after hastily uttering a harsh sentence without any threat, Fei Duan walked out in a fit of anger. I'm not a primary school student anymore. Who would be scared by such harsh words as "don't leave after school"? However, the increase in the binding value at this point is really surprising. Is this indeed the correct way to open it? So Akagi Shinji shrugged his shoulders and didn't respond anymore. Instead, he quickly sealed all the blood flowing out of the body with the sealed bag he sent. One of the drawbacks of the red blood technique is that the blood content in a person's body is limited, in order to prevent the occurrence of a situation where they have lost too much blood and died due to not killing the enemy during combat. Often, they will release and accumulate some spare blood during normal times, and then use it during battles. Akagi Shinji naturally thought of this, so he decided to seal it first and not waste it. At this moment, although his face became increasingly pale due to the loss of a large amount of blood in his body, his eyes became even brighter. Because he suddenly realized that his immortal body seemed to be able to better utilize the advantages of the red blood technique. The next day, in addition to the daily experiments and training that Akagi Shinji had to cooperate with, he also had an additional task, which was to develop the usage methods of the red blood exercise technique. It is obvious that compared to the death based on blood technique where blood is taken, the red blood manipulation technique is not as simple, crude, or unsolvable. On the contrary, the red blood technique is more flexible and versatile, and the destructive power it generates depends entirely on how the practitioner uses it. This also requires him to spend more time on its development, unable to be as heartless as Fei Duan. Another point worth mentioning is that it is unclear whether the taboo experiments of the cult were not perfect. Despite surviving the transformation, he and Fei Duan still had chakras in their bodies, but the difficulty of releasing ninjutsu increased more than 100 times. Just like Naruto at the ninja school, every time he releases his ninjutsu, there is always some unexpected factor that interferes with his release, leading to failure. Regarding this point, Hokage Shinji learned through researchers from the evil god cult that it is likely due to some abnormality in the chakra meridians inside their bodies, which caused them to have abnormal chakra flow during seal formation, leading to frequent release failures. This is the phased result that the people of the evil god sect have observed and studied from them during this period. Of course, the spell, death by blood, is a complete exception. Hokage Shinji is not even sure if the group of people from the evil god sect first came up with the peculiar spell of death minister relies on blood, and then they had the idea of transforming the human body. Or specifically developed such spells for the immortal body. He suspected that the reason why he couldn't learn death by blood was because he was actually a failure, a semi-finished product. If it weren't for that journey, Hokage Shinji would have died tragically like other unlucky people. If it weren't for his luck in obtaining the red blood technique from the system, it would probably not be long before he would be labeled as a semi-failed product on his body. Regarding this, Hokage Shinji still felt a little relieved and depressed. I am fortunate that I have successfully overcome difficulties and have gained a certain degree of self-protection in this terrifying world. After feeling depressed again, I'm afraid I'll have to walk into the dark on the path of magic. Am I doing spell wars in the Hokage world? What a big head. It's hard to resist roast. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Men are teenagers until death, naming is really super difficult. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Men are teenagers until death. After another day of cultivation, Hokage Shinji decided to go soak in a hot spring after dinner. Don't look at the people in the evil god sect who are all ferocious and ruthless, killing people like wildfire and ignoring life. But in terms of pleasure, these executioners and lunatics never mistreat themselves. There is a large outdoor hot spring behind the huge base. However, he didn't really enjoy soaking in hot springs with this group of people, so he took a turn and went to a more secluded and remote small hot spring pool. But when he went there, the people he saw surprised him a bit. Idiot flying segment. Damn it, be careful. It's really a narrow path for enemies. Shen-Si clicked twice and looked at the ghostly appearance of Fei Duan in the hot spring. Although his heart was tired, he didn't immediately turn around and leave. If he leaves at this time, it goes without saying, he will definitely be seen as scared by the flying segment, so he escaped, and then it will fuel the arrogance of this guy. This does not comply with the basic principles of PUA. He needs to let Fei Duan fall into self-doubt and start brainstorming before he can try to give him some sweetness. After repeating this several times, you will probably see the results. So, based on the principle of coming all the way, Shen-Si ignored the flying segment and quickly took off his clothes, diving into the water at the farthest position from the flying segment. Then he took a comfortable breath. Watching Shen-Si enter the water and slowly close his eyes, Fei Duan seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. At first, he thought that Shen-Si was specifically here to trouble him. After all, he had personally experienced the other party's terror. However, looking at it now, it seems to be just a misunderstanding. He is too hesitant. Is this guy really just here to soak in hot springs? Cut, bad luck. Surprisingly, this can also collide with, Fei Duan thought, very displeased. Especially the thought of running into such a remote place at this time and encountering this despicable bastard, Shen-Si, made him particularly unhappy. I can't bear it for a moment, but the more I think, the more angry I become. Taking a step back, the more I think, the more I lose. Fight again. There's really no need for this. The two of them play every day, and there's no difference between having one more time and one less time. And even if we barely win, it's difficult to drive away the opponent. More importantly, his idea of enjoying a hot spring for a while will be completely dashed. Is there any other way to retrieve the venue? Fei Duan thought for a moment, but suddenly had an additional thought in his heart. If I persist longer than that bastard right now, can I prove that Mr. Fei Duan is still more powerful? Fei Duan's eyes immediately lit up and he didn't notice Shen Si, so he decided on this inexplicable duel on his own. Whoever can't withstand it first, who is the grandson? Fei Duan chuckled and even his tense body completely relaxed, seeming to have a hint of spiritual victory. Shen Si noticed and opened his eyes, looking inexplicable. This guy's gaze is so lewd and vulgar. Shen Si frowned slightly and said, "Isn't this product a big glass? I feel a bit chilly in my heart, and goosebumps are about to rise. Sigh, what's the point of competing with an idiot? Forget it, let's go." Just as Shen Si couldn't bear the fiery gaze of Fei Duan and was preparing to leave, the strange system suddenly triggered another mission. He was stunned for a few seconds before starting to check the task. The bound character flying segment has challenged you task. Hot Spring War God, content. Persisting in hot springs for a longer period of time than flying. Reward. Cursed Treasure Map X1, Cursed Soul Value X500, Binding Value plus 20 PS. I have contracted for this fish pond for you. Ah bah. In this hot spring, there can only be one standing God. Since ancient times, when we meet on a narrow path, the brave win. So shine your sword, young man. Do you accept it? Mad. Although there have been precedents, Shen Si still has an endless frustration in his stomach at this moment. Liang Nima's sword. How about playing fencing here? Believe it or not, the river crab god will jump out and swallow you in just a few minutes. And what kind of thing is that big idiot in Fei Duan really thinking about? Are you really treating this place like a bathhouse? Or a sauna room? For the sake of a man's inexplicable self-esteem, even if he is steamed, he refuses to go out first, and must be divided into high and low, right? Young is not childish. Do you accept it? Accept. Without hesitation, Shen Si took on this task and highlighted a true fragrance law. Roast is roast, and the task should be done. After all, no matter how small the reward is, he can't afford it. Ah Duan, you are indeed my father's good son. Shen Si couldn't help but sigh in his heart. This is not the first time he has plucked wool from the flying segment. Besides, this rundown system has never triggered a mission on anyone else. You said you're not angry. So even though he knew the truth that he couldn't catch a sheep to collect wool, he had no choice but to let Fei Duan experience the pain of the world in advance. So Shen Si took a deep breath and closed his eyes again. He's already prepared, he's going to soak in this hot spring until the end of time. It's not easy for anyone to persuade him. And Fei Duan was secretly competing with this force, trying to consume the other party. So the two of them started a willpower battle in a confused way. Time has passed by bit. It wasn't until the next morning, when the leader of the Longqi sect arrived at the cultivation room, that he strangely realized that neither Fei Duan nor Shen Si was present. Where are Fei Duan and Shen Si? Why haven't they come yet? Asked the leader of the Longqi sect expressionlessly. A person next to him hesitated awkwardly and said, "The two of them are soaking in a hot spring." When is it? What kind of hot spring are you soaking in early morning? Hurry up and call them over. It's not like that, sect leader. Actually, they have been soaking together since last night until now. I have already sent someone to find them, but depending on the situation, they seem to have clashed again, and neither of them wants to come out first. Nonsense. It's just nonsense. The leader of the Longqi sect seemed a bit angry, turned around and walked outside, wanting to see what tricks these two spikes were playing. I only realized when I arrived near the hot spring that many followers had already arrived. It's probably because they heard that these two people had been soaking in the hot spring all night and still refused to come out, that they came specifically to watch the excitement. What are you two doing? Why don't you go to the cultivation room? At this moment, the leader of Longqi sect crossed the crowd and walked over to look inside and ask. To be honest, being surrounded by so many people without strong psychological qualities and thick skin, ordinary people simply cannot bear it. But obviously, neither Shenxi nor Fei Duan are the kind of guys who care about the looks of others. One is to get task rewards, and the other is simply not wanting to lose. So even if the leader personally speaks, these two people just won't go out. Anyway, there is always an immortal body, so let's just waste it. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Not talking about martial virtue, adding more difficulties to naming is really super good, /. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Not talking about martial virtue, adding 33 extra points for naming is really super difficult, indeed, it's already this time. Hey, you're not leaving yet. Fei Duan chose to take the initiative. Regarding this, Shenxi chuckled and showed a painful expression. Don't worry about me, my leg is cramping and I need to slow down for a while. You go over first, I'll be there soon. Flying segment. Mad, I believe in your evil. Although I'm not sure why, at this moment, the flying segment is very certain. Shenxi should have held the same idea as him, that's very gone. It's okay, I'll wait for you. You don't need to wait, you go out first. I won't go out. Then I won't go out either. Surrounding people. These two people are a bit sick, right? The leader of the Longqi sect, who was ignored by the glamour, immediately turned black and smiled angrily. Okay, isn't it that they refuse to come out? Then just stay inside. Leave a few people for me to keep an eye on them, anyone who thinks of it will call me back. Also, blood is drawn every hour, and the experimental data needs to be recorded continuously without stopping. Yes. A malicious smile immediately appeared on the face left behind. Not coming out, right? Okay. Yeah, wait, draw blood and kill you all. After the leader of the Longqi sect led the people away, both Shenxi and Fei Duan's facial muscles couldn't help but twitch twice, but neither of them refused to give up first. Anyway, both of them have an immortal body, and drawing a few tubes of blood can't kill anyone. However, 6 hours have passed quickly. Fei Duan and Shenxi still have no intention of coming out. However, their faces had turned pale, and it was obvious that they had been drawn blood. In addition, they had been soaking in hot springs for too long, which had caused the two of them to suffer from severe dizziness and dizziness. At this moment, a person next to him walked over and revealed a needle that was the thickness of a child's arm. With a gloomy smile, he said, "It's time again. Should you come out now to apologize to the leader or contribute some valuable blood?" The other party deliberately emphasized the tone on the word precious. After all, such a thick syringe has been drawn 5 times in a row, and there is definitely not much left. Can it not be precious? If it were a normal person, they would have been beaten to death long ago. That is to say, these two individuals have a special physique, with a hematopoietic speed several times that of ordinary people, and possess an immortal body, which is why they persevere. But if we continue to smoke like this, we'll probably have to draw our brains out of our heads. As he watched the mandatory blood donation process that others enjoyed, Fei Duan's pale face turned a bit green. But let him just give up like this, he is not willing to accept it. Still holding on. I think you're no longer capable, right? Fei Duan, feeling dizzy and overwhelmed, couldn't help but probe. However, Shenxi pretended to smile casually and said, "It's quite comfortable. I'm almost asleep, but the water temperature is not hot enough, it's not satisfying. Fei Duan didn't believe Shenxi's nonsense at all, but instead boasted and criticized, indeed, I could swim in freshly boiled hot water when I was 6 years old. What a special thing, why didn't you burn yourself to death? Are you starting to talk nonsense about logical reasoning? Shenxi chuckled, have you ever tasted magma? The taste is so amazing. Fei Duan's mouth twitched and he drank Nima's magma. My cheeks have all been scalded and leaked for you. I count 1, 2, 3, how about going out together? Fei Duan reluctantly used his brain and said again. Okay. 1, 2, 3. An interesting scene appeared, neither of them moved, and at the same time, they showed a contemptuous look, as if saying, I know you're not keeping your word. Why don't you go out? Didn't you also stay still? Fei Duan is completely at a loss this time, and it is obvious that Shenxi, that bastard, is ready to end up with him. So in the end, he went all out, gritted his teeth, closed his eyes, and squeezed out a word to the side, smoke. Shenxi was even more decisive, without saying a word, and directly extended his arm. Just smoke, no one is afraid of anyone. Shua. At this moment, the congregation was somewhat impressed in their hearts, but their movements were not slow at all, and they immediately began to draw blood with another companion. Just smoking, he began to realize something was wrong. Why did the blood in the syringe suddenly not increase? Looking back, Shenxi had already tilted his head and lost his breath. His entire skin had dried up, looking like it had been sucked dry. The blood has been drained, and the person is dead. Isn't it impossible to draw it out? The person was immediately startled and shouted, something's wrong, go and inform the leader. Immediately, someone rushed out to find the leader of the Longqi sect. What should we do now? The parishioner next to him who had just finished drawing blood for Fei Duan was also frightened, and the syringe filled with blood in his hand almost fell to the ground unsteadily. If there really is any problem with this, it's not enough to vent our anger by cutting both of them to pieces. Before the successful replication of miracles, the importance of Fei Duan and Shenxi is completely equivalent to half of the cult of evil gods. How can they be afraid? What should we do? Quickly lift the person out. Especially in the flying segment, there must be no more trouble. Oh, yes, save people, the two of them hurriedly began to lift people out. At this moment, Fei Duan's extremely pale face finally showed a happy smile from the inside out, and he did not stop the person from lifting him out. Because the final result is still that he, the flying master, won. Shenxi, you bastard also has today. However, Fei Duan was destined to be too happy too early. Just as he felt that the matter had settled and that he had won, he suddenly widened his eyes and showed a surprised expression. No. You're deceiving me. Let go of me, come on. In the midst of the breathless sound of Fei Duan, Shenxi, who was supposed to have been drained of blood and trapped in a state of feigned death, suddenly forcefully pushed away the member of the congregation who was about to take him out. Then, taking advantage of the situation, he fell back into the hot spring and looked up at Fei Duan with a slightly upturned corner of his mouth. He then said with his mouth, "Let's go well." It was already too late when Fei Duan realized that the scene just now was likely a conspiracy of that bastard Shenxi. The members of the cult who were afraid of encountering another mishap in Fei Duan disregarded his extremely powerless struggle, and with just a slight effort, they completely took him out of the hot spring. In an instant, Fei Duan's whole body froze, like a limp wax statue. Lost. I didn't expect him to lose in the end, and in such a meaningless way. Akaji Shinji. You don't talk about martial arts. Fei Duan really wanted to question the other party like this, but losing means losing. In the cruel battle, no one will care if you choose to sneak attack, or if you have used any vulgar means. Because only those who are still standing and alive in the end are the true winners. And what is even more puzzling to Fei Duan is why the other party still has the strength to break free at this time. They both soaked in hot springs for so long and drew so much blood. Wait a minute. If he remembers correctly, it seems that Shen-Si did not draw much blood from the last attempt. Just everyone was deceived by his appearance. After trying to figure out why he lost, Fei Duan couldn't hold on any longer and immediately went black and fainted. At this moment, Shen-Si finally achieved his wish and waited for the prompt sound from the system to complete the task, which made him breathe a sigh of relief. He did play a small trick in the end, using the characteristics of the red blood technique to forcibly control the blood inside his body and prevent it from being drained. In order to numb everyone at the last moment and create a false impression that he had an accident. After all, given the importance of him and Fei Duan, even if nearby people knew that he might not really be dead, they would still be afraid to take responsibility and achieve the results they wanted. This move was used too early to deceive everyone, and it will be exposed in advance. He used it too late, maybe he didn't have the strength to break free, resulting in a complete loss. Fortunately, his final judgment was correct and successful. At this moment, a series of noisy footsteps and the angry questioning of the leader of the Longqi sect could be heard in the distance. What are you all doing in a daze? Hurry up and save the person for me. Shen-Si, who was unwilling to face the angry ex-coach at this time, immediately relaxed his mind and fell into a coma. P.S. Today's Wangung is on the list, seeking a wave of collectibles, recommended tickets, and monthly tickets should not be too much, right? And now I heard that following the book has become very important. After the book is recommended, I hope everyone can watch more. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Red Scales Jumping. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Red Scales Jumping. 7 days later, Shen-Si, who only came out of the confinement room today, was enjoying his lunch. Today's meal was chicken curry, which tasted good. The main reason was that he was given enough meat, so he had a good time. To be fair, the time he spent in the evil god sect after crossing over was actually quite harmonious and fulfilling. Practice hard every day, draw blood, and record experimental data. Cough, as long as you get used to these, it's really good. Anyway, it should be much stronger than those war orphans and refugees who are constantly struggling on the brink of death. At least life is guaranteed, and you don't have to worry about food and clothing. So much so that he once thought that it would be great if he could just keep eating and waiting to die like this. After all, as long as he doesn't go too far, he can definitely continue to endure like this. Even if one day aliens really come to attack the ninja realm, there will still be Naoyuo Du and Erju Ding carrying them at the front. No matter how you think about it, it's not his turn. However, after carefully recalling the intelligence about the evil god sect, he could only sigh slightly, feeling that his idea might be somewhat unrealistic. Although I don't know when, the ultimate result of the evil god sect is definitely its downfall. Because he vaguely remembers an episode in Unburnable Biography, where a fool somehow obtained some inheritance of the evil god cult and then deluded himself into obtaining immortality. At that time, the cult of evil gods had already disappeared for a long time. Shen-Si is not very clear about how the evil god sect was destroyed. After all, his memory is too long. He only vaguely remembers seeing it online, saying that the entire evil god sect was sacrificed to the evil god by flying segments. It seems like something that can be accomplished by Fei Duan. If there really is one day, Shen-Si will definitely force him to take action. When the sea is wide and fish leap, and the sky is high and birds fly, it will be equally beautiful. If the leader of the Longqi sect knew about this guy's thoughts at the moment, he would probably immediately choose to turn them to ashes. It's a bit excessive to finally cultivate 2 undead individuals and end up with only 2 or 5 offspring. Bang! With a loud sound. While eating curry, Shen-Si couldn't help but sigh and suddenly looked up. Oh, Woolman Fei Duan, who kicked over the stool with one foot, stared at him with a fierce and righteous expression at the moment. It is obvious that the experience of treatment and foot restriction in the past few days has made Fei Duan very unhappy and angry. Due to the boring competition of tacit understanding, the leader of the Longqi sect put the two of them in solitary confinement and received ideological education no less than 10 times, fearing that they would cause even greater trouble in the future. By the way, let them both take a good rest. After all, immortality does not mean they will not be injured. In that situation at the time, it was indescribable. Unfortunately, if we don't pick the boat, it won't be a one-sided leap. Well, as soon as I was released, I searched around and couldn't wait to find trouble with Shenxi. Yo, have you eaten? How about sitting down together and having some? Shenxi said hello while accelerating his hand movements to save a while before going hungry. Yuan Dada has long educated him not to waste food. Damn it, be careful. Zinai. Fei Duan took out a pitch-black spear and bit his teeth before killing it. Even if he is locked up again, he will spare no effort. It's really because I lost too much last time. It can be said that as soon as he got started, Fei Duan's face suddenly changed. In theory, the strength of the two should be between the two, at least in every confrontation before being locked down, neither can do anything about the other. However, this time it was completely different. The multiple attacks of Fei Duan wielding his pitch-black spear were all easily dodged by Shenxi, and even the opponent took advantage of the attack gap and quickly lowered his head to scoop the remaining curry rice from the plate into his mouth. It's just that I didn't take the attack of the flying segment seriously. Damn it. Fei Duan gritted his teeth with force, accelerating the attack once again. At this moment, Shenxi, who had been dodging all along, finally lifted his head. Fei Duan suddenly realized that at some point, there was a red scar in the shape of an X on the other person's forehead, as if it had been stained red with blood. Red blood exercise. Red scales jumping. Bang. Boom. After putting down the plate, with just one punch, the unexpected flying segment flew out upside down, embedded in the wall, and then uncontrollably spewed out a large mouthful of blood. Even the black spear of the surgery instantly fell off the ground. How could this be possible? Fei Duan, who was holding his hands on the ground, suddenly showed an incredulous expression in his eyes, as if he couldn't understand why the opponent's strength had grown so quickly after only a few days of absence. Can it be said that the leader secretly opened a small stove for this bastard during his absence? Seemingly aware of Fei Duan's confusion, Shenxi calmly said, "My red blood exercise allows for free manipulation of blood components such as body temperature, pulse, and red blood cell count. Just now, I just accelerated the flow of blood to strengthen my body's strength. It increased my speed and strength. In this state, you can't even touch the corner of my clothes." The flying segment that slid off the wall couldn't believe that it would only take a few days to widen the gap between the two. So, gritting his teeth, he quickly picked up the pitch-black spear that had fallen to the ground and charged toward Shenxi again without saying a word. Shenxi shook his head when he saw the situation. If it were himself a few days ago, he would indeed be caught in a fierce struggle. But when he experienced excessive blood loss and was on the brink of death, and then quietly realized it for a few days, he then, by chance, came up with a way to strengthen himself. That is, as he said, to accelerate blood flow in order to strengthen physical strength, increase speed and strength. The principle is probably similar to Wang Lufei's second gear, but there are differences. The cost is significant damage to oneself, and frequent use can even deplete one's lifespan. So it can only be said that Fei Duan picked the wrong time to trouble him. Feeling the power of his own in the state of red blood exercise, red scales jumping, Shenxi decided to give Fei Duan an unforgettable memory. Gently turning his head, he dodged the pitch-black spear that Fei Duan was rapidly piercing, and then his right fist concealed itself but swung out like lightning, hitting Fei Duan's abdomen directly. In an instant, Fei Duan only felt a sharp pain coming, his eyes bulging, and he bent down with a whoosh. Then, Shenxi's knee quickly enlarged in front of him. P.S. Thank you for the reward for the children's shoes, Kagami and Yuwara Nozaki. Also, I would like to ask for collection, tickets, and follow-up reading. Now it seems that the recommended slots are all for follow-up reading. Lao Wumian also knows that the books are still young, but I can only rely on everyone. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. The Punishment of God. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 8. The Punishment of God. Bang. The flying segment with a blooming face suddenly lifted its feet off the ground and tilted its head backwards. However, this was not over yet, and it was decided to make Fei Duan aware of the power gap between the two. Shenxi immediately stepped forward and hit Fei Duan's chest with a heavy elbow strike. Click and wipe. The sound of bone fractures rang out directly. Then, as he flew backwards, he accurately grabbed one of his arms and threw it upwards with force. Then he slammed onto the ground and rose into the air. Gently caress and press the flying segment with both hands, while the knee of the right leg is already pressing against the spine of the flying segment's waist. As long as heavy pressure is applied at the moment of landing, the flight segment can be easily folded in half from the middle. And it's the kind where the back of the head and heels are tightly attached. With a loud bang, the heavy pressure on the ground caused a web-like crack to appear on the ground beneath Shenxi's feet. But surprisingly, the already foreseeable tragedy did not seem to have occurred. Because at the last moment, Shenxi suddenly withdrew his strength and did not break the flying section like chopsticks. Put on casually throwing away the heavily damaged flying segment, Director Shen exhaled a slightly scorching breath, and the blood stains on his forehead disappeared. Defeated. I lost again. And it's an unprecedented defeat. Lying on the ground, Fei Duan felt an extremely strong sense of unwillingness filling his chest. Especially when Shenxi's last attack did not fall, but instead showed mercy, it deeply stimulated Fei Duan's sensitive nerves. Ha ha ha. I can't die. Even if I were to be shattered and only have this head left, I would still crawl out of hell and bite your throat. If you can do it, then give it a try. However, you are too weak now. You are so weak that in the end, I don't even want to waste too much effort to completely solve you. After speaking, Shenxi turned around and left. What do you mean by saying that? Are you mocking me? Listen, next time, no matter what, I will kill you. Hey, Akaji Shinji. Bastard, come back here. Fei Duan's unwilling roar echoed throughout the entire base, and the congregation who heard the news immediately sent him to the medical room for treatment. The next day, Fei Duan came out after receiving treatment. He thought he would receive extremely severe punishment this time. After all, it was him who disobeyed the orders of the cult leader, went to trouble Akaji Shinji first, and was also extremely humiliated and beaten up. To his great surprise, he didn't see the arrival of the leader of the Longqi sect until he walked out again. However, with his personality, he didn't care about the reasons behind it and quickly forgot about it. Until he was eating, the conversation among the people around him made him clench his fists all at once. Hey, did you go see it? Of course. The execution techniques of the cult leader are simply art. It makes one's blood boil. Damn it, you pervert. But Akaji, that guy is really tough. He didn't say a word throughout. Cut. If you ask me, it's not because I obtained immortality from the evil god lord on my own. Otherwise, I might have been scared to pee long ago. That kind of punishment is not something that a normal person can bear. Perhaps, this is a punishment that goes against the wishes of the sect leader, and no one can make an exception. Bang! Fei Duan quickly got up, brought down the stool, and then grabbed the person who was speaking sourly by the collar, lifting it up in the air. Hey, Fei Duan. What do you want to do? The person's companion immediately spoke out with a stern tone. What punishment? Does Akaji refer to that guy Akaji Shinji? What's wrong with him? The person held up in the air blushed slightly. Just as he was about to say a few harsh words, he saw Fei Duan's indifferent gaze as if he were looking at a dead person. He trembled for a moment and quickly said, "It's the guy Akaji Shinji. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but it seems to be because of the fight we had yesterday." The sect leader was very angry, so he publicly punished him. Yesterday. Fei Duan was taken aback for a moment, but wasn't it because of him? Even if the main punishment is to punish him, it should not be that guy Shinsi. Fei Duan couldn't figure it out, so he decided to go and take a look. Where is it? What? Where are you? In the main hall. Ah. Bang. Fei Duan forcefully threw the person out and said without concealing his malice, "Next time you speak ill of someone behind their back, remember to choose a place where no one is around. Even if that bastard Shinsi doesn't have an immortal body, it's not like you who can cause trouble. Do you understand?" "I understand." The person lowered their head with a resentful gaze, unable to understand why Fei Duan would speak for his arch-nemesis. "But if you don't want to die, don't provoke the other person anymore." Leaving with great strides, he quickly entered the main hall. This is the place where the evil god cult usually worships evil gods, but now there have been some different changes. In front of a huge statue of an evil god without facial features, a figure was pierced by 18 pitch-black spears, suspended in mid-air, with blood continuously dripping into the grooves on the ground. This is the divine punishment of the cult of evil gods, using 18 spears to pierce the limbs and torso of the victim respectively, and avoiding vital points during the process to ensure the victim's life. Then as long as the blood flowing out can fill the grooves of the evil god's sect pattern on the ground, redemption can be obtained, which means that under the gaze of the evil god lord, the fault has been washed away by the blood. But in reality, no one had ever been able to survive under this punishment before. Fei Duan approached and saw that the person in front of him who was undergoing the divine punishment was indeed Akaji Shinji. After sensing someone approaching, Shinsi, whose face was covered in blood stains, instinctively lifted his head and smiled when he saw it was a flying segment. "Isn't it really satisfying to see my ghostly appearance?" "Ah, yes. It's so exciting that I'm about to ascend. But what I'm even more curious about is what you've done." "Why do you ask that?" "Because someone told me that you were punished because of yesterday's incident." Hey, you don't think I'm taking the blame for you? Don't dream, I'm waiting for you to fall into trouble before it's too late. Maybe in a while, you'll end up like me, so if I were you, just go back to sleep honestly now. It's rare to have the strength to curse. It seems that this so-called divine punishment is nothing more than that. After a mockery, Fei Duan left. Behind him, Shinsi was gradually shrouded in darkness once again, with only the sound of blood dripping echoing non-stop in the hall. Just on the way back to the room, Fei Duan's expression kept changing. In the end, he stopped and turned towards the location of the leader of the Longqi sect. Although, as that bastard Shinsi said, that guy is good enough not to fall into trouble. How could he help him carry the blame? But if you don't figure it out, Fei Duan feels like he won't be able to sleep well for a month. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. First Task. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 First Task. After a moment Fei Duan walked out of the room, clenching his fists and gritting his teeth. Damn it. It's just a divine punishment. Uncle Fei Duan doesn't need anyone else to meddle in his affairs. How despicable. On the other hand, as Fei Duan angrily returned, a smile suddenly appeared on Shinsi's lowered face. Because just now, the system's prompt sound appeared. His bond value with the flying segment suddenly increased by 80 points. Including the 20 points obtained from the previous hot spring mission, in just about 10 days, he completed the task target for the previous month. It can be seen that he has become more adept at handling the flying section. It's not in vain that he was stabbed with a whole 18 blood holes in front of so many people. And just before the arrival of the flying segment, he also failed once and received a rating of low level of excitement in death, which led to a slight improvement in Chakra's willpower and physical fitness. He couldn't help roast. How could it be the highlight of death? Is it the colorful fireworks exploding in the head that make it exciting, or is it the meaning of death that makes it exciting? I really don't understand. The punishment of divine punishment, which has never survived, has been broken, and Akagi Shinji became the first person to accept the punishment and survive. Of course, there's nothing unexpected about it, after all, it's just about poking a dozen holes and letting blood out. The immortal body is not as weak as a chicken. So many people didn't take it seriously, and the internal activities of the evil god sect returned to the right track. In the following period of time, Fei Duan did not bother Shensi again, but instead began to hone his physical skills very little. It is obvious that he did not give up on this, but prepared to improve his strength before coming to settle accounts with Shensi. For the transformation of Fei Duan, the leader of Longqi sect and others were naturally secretly delighted. They were originally considering whether to completely separate the cultivation of Fei Duan and Akagi Shinji, but they didn't expect such an unexpected surprise in the end. It was indeed the blessing of the evil god lord. At present, a large amount of resources are beginning to tilt towards Fei Duan and Shensi. After all, the leader of the Longqi sect understands very well that although the evil god sect he founded has been developing rapidly, at most it only bullies those small countries. If taken seriously, the 5 major powers can easily crush them with just a few fingers. This is also why he chose to live in one place and never dared to provoke the 5 major powers. But now with the appearance of Fei Duan and Shensi, he has regained hope. The combination of 2 undead bodies, combined with powerful spells such as death based on blood and red blood exercise, will never be weaker than any shadow-level powerhouse as long as they grow up. Only with the presence of shadow-level experts can their cult truly grow and become a force that cannot be ignored in the realm of ninja. It has to be said that the leader of Longqi sect has great ambition and good planning. The plan may never keep up with the speed of change. Shensi, how long have you been here? After cooperating and drawing a tube of blood as experimental material, Shensi was slightly taken aback upon hearing this, and then thought for a moment, it's been about 3 months. Since it has been 3 months since you joined us, I have a task ready to hand over to you, said the leader of the Longqi sect, nodding lightly. Shensi was initially surprised and then forced himself to calm down. Did you really trust him, or was it just a test? But on second thought, he suddenly felt indifferent. After all, he is not yet ready to jump off the small sampan of the evil god sect. Even if he wants to leave, he will have to squeeze out all the value before running away. So whether the other party already has initial trust in him or is taking the opportunity to test him, he doesn't have to be afraid, just be himself. Thinking of this, Shensi immediately said, all at the command of Lord Longqi, Shensi is willing to offer everything, including life, to Lord Evil God. It seems that he is very satisfied with Shensi's loyal behavior, and the smile of the leader of the Longqi sect is even more friendly. You and Fei Duan are both the future of my cult of evil gods, and there will be even heavier burdens on you in the future, so don't easily think about serving the cult master. I and my followers have been waiting for that day for a long time, and it's not your turn now. Yes, Lord Longqi. It was Shensi's rudeness. What kind of evil god do ghosts want to serve? This kind of good thing will be given to you. Hurry up and take those believers to see the evil god together. Shensi is respectful on the surface, but in fact, he is crazy roast on the inside. After lightly patting Shensi's shoulder, the leader of Longqi sect continued, actually, it's not a difficult task. There is a wealthy man in the country of Bo who has been secretly supporting us. He has been in some trouble lately and needs us to take action to solve it. We have all seen your and Fei Duan's efforts in cultivation recently. However, if you want to quickly improve your strength, it is not feasible to keep hiding here and working in isolation. Only after experiencing enough battles and trials of blood can one grow into a strong individual. So for this mission, I have decided to only send you and Fei Duan. I hope you two won't disappoint me. Looking at the kind smile on the face of the leader of the Longqi sect, Shen Si responded solemnly while feeling speechless in his heart. You're lying to ghosts. I don't believe you. There's no other plan behind the scenes. Otherwise, what a big head. You can rest assured that I and Fei Duan will go out together to complete the task. If you really want to turn outside or run away, I'm afraid you'll have nowhere to cry. Hee hee. Furthermore, Ghost Talent wants to go on a mission with Fei Duan. Who wants to go on a mission with that bastard? Fei Duan, who also received the mission from the sect leader, couldn't help but shout in his heart. But since it was already decided by the leader of the sect, it would naturally not be changed based on their personal preferences. Moreover, in the view of the leader of the Longqi sect, the conflict between Fei Duan and Shen Si is completely caused by childish behavior and mutual dissatisfaction. As long as we experience more things together, our relationship can immediately improve. For example, last time, who would have thought that Shen Si would take the initiative to plead for Fei Duan, or even be willing to accept punishment for Fei Duan? Who could have imagined that, without any knowledge of all this, Fei Duan would almost kill a member of the sect who spoke ill of Shen Si behind his back in order to stand up for him? So Lord Longqi firmly believes that his arrangement is correct. The undead body is not impossible to crack, but if two undead individuals with powerful spells are paired, then the effect of 1 + 1 will definitely be much greater than 2. To make Shen Si and Fei Duan a true partner, it is necessary to start fighting together from now on, to cultivate that tacit understanding and bond. P.S. Thank you for the 200 yuan reward for Nanshang and Bailey children's shoes. Thank you for not being abnormal. What is life? ZYH Wings, Book Friend 20210723001430523, and a few children's shoes. Everyone has read book reviews, and I have also seen many old acquaintances. I love you all. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Cursed Treasure Map. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Cursed Treasure Map. No matter how unwilling Shen Si was, he still set off with Fei Duan. And as the leader of the Longqi sect said, it seems that there is really no one to follow, as if they are very confident that they can successfully complete the task and return safely. But unless Shen Si is truly Shirliji, he will never believe it. It is more likely that the evil god sect has sent people to secretly protect, monitor, them. What are you looking at? Fei Duan impatiently asked. Obviously, if there were any options, he didn't want to go on a mission with Shen Si either. It's nothing, let's go. Shen Si withdrew his gaze without explaining anything and walked straight forward. Fei Duan made a cut and followed suit. According to the map, they need to cross the land of fire and then take a boat to the land of waves. Although the journey is long, for ninjas, rushing at full speed is only a matter of a few days. Of course, this task is not urgent to this extent. So they don't have to rush so much. So they walked and stopped, and it took them 3 days to finally delve into the land of fire. After entering the Fire Kingdom, Shen Si's behavior became noticeably strange. It's not that he wants to get rid of Fei Duan and escape, nor is there any intention of defecting to Muyi. He just noticed that he was getting closer and closer to the location marked on the cursed treasure map. Do you want to go and take a look? He hesitated a bit, afraid of exposing his biggest secret as a result. But on second thought, if we don't seize the opportunity this time, come up with it next time, and come to this area, we won't know it will be a monkey year. And he really wants to know what this cursed treasure map can dig up. Mad, what's the point of hesitating and hesitating? If you really want to dig something out, then say it's from where you used to hide. It shouldn't be a problem. Shen Si is not blindly confident, but the cult has poured so much effort into him and Fei Duan. As long as he does not rebel, no matter how he thinks about the other party, he cannot be short-sighted in stealing his things. Another, due to the unreliability of this system, coupled with the word, cursed, he also worried about whether there would be any problems in the process. Don't dig out a zongzi at that time. Good guys will become tomb-robbing novels with others. Looking up at the sky, night is approaching. Shen Seiden said casually, it's getting dark soon. I saw on the map that there's a small village nearby. We can go buy some food and stay overnight. It's really troublesome. Fei Duan muttered, but there was no objection. After all, he has been eating dry food and sleeping outdoors to feed mosquitoes for the past few days, which has made him a bit annoyed. If he could have a hot meal and a good sleep, he had no reason to object. Of course, what should be mocked is still to be mocked. I can't take it anymore in just a few days. Some people are really spoiled. Shen Si was not used to flying, so he directly retorted, then you can continue to stay here and feed mosquitoes. I'll go over there and see if there might be fried pork chops to eat. After speaking, I left without any hesitation. It's a dilemma to leave only one person, Fei Duan, in place. Follow up, it's a bit of a slap in the face. But don't go. What if there really is fried pork chops to eat? As a born carnivore, Fei Duan hates all vegetarian vegetables and loves to eat fried pork chops the most. And why should he stay to eat dry food, feed mosquitoes, and let that bastard Shen Si enjoy it himself? So Fei Duan slammed his face and immediately chased after him. Seeing Shen Si casting his gaze, he immediately said, there's really nothing I can do about you. Uncle Fei Duan can barely accommodate you once. But there's no next time, have you heard me? A proud and delicate guy who disdains integrity in his mouth and body. Shen Si sked twice, but did not continue to expose him. After all, most of his thoughts are now focused on that treasure map. Fighting against Fei Duan is a long-term task that cannot be completed overnight, so don't worry, you can take it slow. Keep up, we need to speed up. Find the right direction, carefully store the map, and immediately start accelerating. In the original work, Fei Duan was the slowest member of the Shao organization, but that was also compared to the monsters in the Shao organization. But compared to ordinary ninjas, the speed of the flying segment is not slow at all. So the two quickly deviated from their original path and headed north. After running for a full hour, I finally saw the shadow of the village, and the sky completely darkened. After stopping, Fei Duan could not help but roast. This is a small village near you. Where did it come from? Isn't it possible for ninjas like them to be called nearby, after traveling at full speed for an hour? Fei Duan feels like he's been tricked. What kind of fried pork chops is that? Shen Si, that bastard, deliberately said it to lure him into taking the bait. Fortunately, he was fooled foolishly and followed so far. If he had known earlier, he would have preferred to stay in place and fight against the mosquitoes. Shen Si also knows that his reasons are somewhat outrageous, but there are no other good ways. After all, he also sensed it based on the location of the treasure map. So even if the excuse is terrible, he still has to turn around halfway to take a look. So you're leaving? Fuck it. If I can't eat fried pork chops today, I'll sacrifice all these people to the evil God Lord as offerings. Fei Duan angrily cursed and then rushed in. Shen Seiden felt a double headache. He had no doubt that Fei Duan could do such a thing in anger, but such a result was not what he wanted to see. So let's figure out how to fool this guy later. Fortunately, his ability to completely defeat the flying section in his red blood technique is not so uncontrollable that he cannot control this cargo. Two young people, are you here to find someone? Just as the two of them were wandering around the village, an elderly man appeared in front of them and asked. Just as Shen Si was about to speak, he was preempted by Fei Duan. Hey, old man. If you have anything delicious or tasty here, take it out quickly, or else Uncle Fei Duan will burn down your village later. Shen Si quickly stepped forward and covered Fei Duan's mouth, then put on a smiling face and said, Grandpa, don't misunderstand. My younger brother used to have water in his head when he was young and often talked nonsense. Actually, we're not here to find anyone, we just happened to pass by and want to buy something to eat. It's best to have another place where we can rest for the night. Upon hearing this, the old man's tense expression eased a bit. Oh, I'm telling you, your younger brother seems to have some serious illness. Upon hearing these words, Fei Duan's eyes widened and he began to struggle hard again. Kill you, old man. Shen Si put in a lot of effort to prevent Fei Duan from killing the old man on the spot. Then I heard the old man say, coming from afar as a guest. Since we met, it's fate. Well, let's not mention anything about money. If you two don't mind, let's go home with the old man first, have some food, and spend the night together. What do you think? Thank you very much. We'll stay overnight and leave, it won't cause any trouble. Speaking of trouble. What's wrong, sir? You have to keep an eye on your younger brother. There are many women and children in the village, don't be scared anymore. Absolutely not. Don't worry, although my younger brother has a bad brain, doesn't speak well, and is arrogant and has a lot of shortcomings. But he has one advantage, which is not getting close to women. It's annoying to see women and children, and he can't even hide in time. How could he get closer? That's good. Sai, by blind has this physique, but unfortunately he's a fool. Women are good, fools don't understand. The old man seemed to be quite a person with a story, and with a long sigh, he led the way with his hands down. End of this chapter.